Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. The temperature may actually get up to 25 degrees Fahrenheit today, so it's a balmy, warm spell that we're into. Looks like we're not going to be above the freezing mark, 0 centigrade or 32 Fahrenheit, until another couple days. So meanwhile, let's do some videos. One of the things that I enjoy doing is looking at the pens in various forms. So this pen caught my eye. Some of you may recognize it, some of you may not, but it has this particular emblem on it and a nice little barcode, which I'm assuming readers would work with. And it came in this cellophane sleeve. And we'll see the date, which is 11/29/2017, which I'm assuming has something to do with manufacturing. It has the .38 or the extra fine nib in it. So I've looked at 3003s before, and I consider them to be a very nice pen. The other ones I looked at were more of a demonstrator variety with some bits of color in them. So I think it's a solid pen. It works quite well. And I enjoy this kind of interesting color. Yellow with a touch of green. My eyes, as I've mentioned, don't have the best color vision, but that's what I see it as. So let's explore the pen in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the other aspects of pens and pens in China. I enjoy the interactions through comments with my viewers, and a lot of you have suggested pens that I look at. So this pen was suggested to me, and I was blown away because here's a pen that has two vintage filling systems. One is a diaphragm based, kind of like Vacuumatic, and the other one has a filling mechanism which is very similar to Schaefer's touchdown filling system. So these are on order. I did the buy it now. The touchdown filling mechanism seems to be selling out quickly, and they're only by one seller and one listing, so I grabbed them all I could. I don't know whether they'll show up. I have no idea on how they got manufactured, so that's why I'm looking forward to seeing those pens and seeing what they look like and why those filling systems decided to be used by some of the Chinese pen manufacturers. I had talked about 2017 being the year of the filling system from a Chinese perspective. I had hoped 2018 would be year of the nib. We're getting some indications of that, but looks like year of the filling system might still continue on. And but it's early in the year, so let's see what will happen. Yeah, it's a pull-off cap, and it pulls off relatively easily. You can hear that click. So one of the things that I'm extremely happy to see is the way that the same material is followed through to the section. A lot of these models now seem to follow through with that, and I think it really adds to the aesthetics of the pen. A lot of different pen models will have like the same section, so they'll all have a black section, even though the barrel and cap might have different color schemes to them. The clear feed is quite evident there. Yeah, this is the classic Wing Sung Super Quality Extra Fine nib. We unscrew the section to reveal the converter. And again, it's the a classic converter, maybe a little bit different because here this piece is transparent. Yeah, it moves up and down easily. Looks like it could be easily disassembled. We'll pop it off and look at it, and it doesn't look like a standard one. It's I've noticed a couple different designs now, and it has that spring agitator in it. One of my viewers asked what that spring was for, and that's a way of breaking up the ink, that hopefully the ink will, continue to flow evenly through to the nib. Sometimes the ink could get caught up in the top part of the converter, so that hopefully breaks it up. Some people put a ball in there, and I think the spring probably works as well as anything and takes up as little volume because there's more surface area there, but it makes it a pain to clean out the converter because then you got to get the ink out from that spring. So that's the pen. Yeah, the nice metal band here is nice. I think when you're screwing these two parts together, I think that washer works well. And of course that theme is kind of replicated throughout the pen, which is nice. And the cap band is also good. As you can see, that cap band extends pretty much for that length of the cap. There is a cap liner inside here, so that's also nice. So I haven't had any trouble with the other pens drying out. And at the top of the cap finial, we have that interesting logo, which is now registered. Little R next to it. The original ones were not. Nice functional clip. You know, it's not going to hold under a lot of thick material like jeans and stuff because there's not a lot of gap there, but it'll certainly work in a lot of materials and shirts. So let's ink this up and let's put the nib through its paces. I don't have any particular expectations, but who knows? I've been surprised in the past. So some of my viewers have commented about cleaning all new pens before using them. So this pen makes cleaning easily. I have my bulb syringe here, which you're going to have to look for them because this one was from Radio Shack and they're not around anymore. This is for flux cleaning, so maybe the company that made it for Radio Shack is still around. I haven't been able to find them. So that fits almost over every section I've ever used. So this is my solution that I mixed up. You know, I got about a half a teaspoon of ammonia, some heavy-duty detergents in here, so I think this will do a good flush. And the fact that we got those nice bubbles, and I see how quickly the bulb fills up, so this I would say is about medium flow. The other thing that's good is when we get some of that liquid in there, we'll see how that's a good flow from my perspective. And this is a good flush. And that'll remove anything that's in there. Yes, I could pull out the nib and feed and do it that way, but yeah, this is more fun. And I also then will do a final rinse in just pure water, dry it off, and ink it up. I decided to pull out the nib and feed anyways, so give you a look at it. So this is that classic clear feed, and the nib is that same design as you'll find on the 78G, the Plumix, and other Pilot pens. You know, this is a nib out of the Plumix, the medium, which is a nice little stub. They're the same length, and they have those same design at the back, which I call it those little wings which fit into the indents in the feed. So it makes putting the nib on and off very easily. We're going to write with the original nib, and I'll decide whether to swap it out for the Plumix just to show the difference. What color is it? Well, here we have a tennis ball, if you don't recognize it, which is optic yellow. We have the 3003, and then we have the 3059, which is definitely more of a lime green. So hopefully this kind of like lets you see that color in perspective. Well, what size is the 3003? Hopefully you can distinguish it between these other pens. Here you have your 78G. It's definitely longer and a little bit girthier than a 3003. Here you have your Platinum Century 3776, which is about the same length, maybe a little bit longer by a couple millimeters, and a little bit more girthy. And your Pen BBS 309, I think. So let's take a look at the business end. When posted, things change a little bit. Not a lot, but the 3003, the 78G, and the 3776 have a very similar overall length posted, and they post very well. They post very deeply and very securely. The Pen BBS is definitely a long one when it comes to posting. It doesn't post as deep as the other three pens. Now we're going to zoom in. Be prepared. We're zooming right now into the business end and the nibs. So this is 78G, definitely has the smallest of these nibs. The 3776 Platinum has your classic platinum nib with those wide shoulders. Make a good line backer. And then your Pen BBS has a longer nib. All of these nibs have their own unique writing characteristics. This section, zoom out a little bit. The sections are fairly similar, with the 78G being the smallest, thinnest, and the longest. So these other three are pretty comparable. So you can get a perspective that the 3003, even though it's a relatively inexpensive pen, is sized, I think, appropriately. One may ask, what ink would you put in this pen? I'm not a light ink color type of guy, but I've been very happy with this ink from Robert Oster. I've used it in a number of pens, and I've been very happy with it. So we put that ink in here, and I was concerned with the fine nib that the ink may not work well, but let's see how that works. The pen's a good size. It posts well. Sorry, it fits well in the hand without posting. And as we saw in the comparison video, it posts relatively deeply, and it's still a pretty good size pen posted. The color certainly pops against my hand. Well, first thing I have to say is I'm impressed. This ink certainly works well in this nib and pen combination. It's not the smoothest. You can hear that. You get some feedback from the nib, but I really like the amount of ink that it lays down. You can do a nice little coloring patch here, smear it out. So I think with the other 3003s that I reviewed, I'm impressed with the nib and how well it does write. I mean, I could live with this, even though it's an extra fine. One should spell well right. Well, not close, but good enough. So one may ask, Chris, how does this ink work in a different pen? So we saw this one for the color comparison, the Lembitu 3059. And I put a broad Lamy nib in here. This pen I've had some drying issues with. It's been setting for about a week or so, so it needed a little bit of priming to get working, but it seems to be working now. Obviously, with this broad nib, we're putting down a lot more ink. And the ink works well in this pen. I've used this a lot for letters and writing to friends, so that gives you an example of what that ink looks like with a nib with more flow and a broader nib, so it's going to lay down more ink regardless of the flow characteristics. But the 3003 hold its own. I mean, you really don't lose a lot. I mean, obviously it's a finer line, but you would expect that because this is a broad. And as we see on the nib, this is an extra fine. The other thing I like about this ink is it really looks cool going through that transparent feed on the other side of the nib. So if you didn't know what ink you had in here, it'd be easy to see just by looking at the feed. For an extra fine, this thing lays down a decent amount of ink. So I'm very, very pleased. And I really like the yellow color. It goes well with my tennis balls. So thank you for watching. May you have many, 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 many great pen, ink, nib, paper experiences. Explore the world of pens. It's pretty big. And I think there's something for everybody who's interested in writing instruments. So we reached the end of this video. Until we meet again, bye.